Today, we are going to be having a webinar on the changes and updates made to Mathcad Primate. My name is AJ, and today is April 13th. So we'll get underway. So what we're going to be talking about in today's webinar is reviewing and demonstrating the updates made in Mathcad Primate. We're going to start with a little bit of an introduction, talk about this concept of the digital thread. Those will be pretty quick, and then we'll head into the actual meat of the webinar, which are the changes and enhancements made in Mathcad Prime 8. I will be demonstrating these changes and answering any and all questions. As a general concept is that you're all muted, and you will stay muted during the webinar. If you have questions at any point, feel free to just throw them in either the chat or the questions pane. I'll get to both of them at the end. So starting off with some introductions, my name is Anthony, or AJ Vetterini. I have a bachelor's in science and education in aerospace and mechanical engineering. I've spent about 5, 6, many years working in the CAD and CAE sphere, specifically with Mathcad. I've been using it for about 4, 5 years now. I also have a few years working in the PLM sphere. A little bit about us being PDSVISION, formerly known as Boundary Systems. We are a global reseller of PTC products and providing software solutions. What we do is, we sell software. We offer implementation services, consulting on product design. We have cloud services for data management and also a help desk for using products. A little bit at the bottom is a timeline, as we were founded back in 2006. PDSVISION was founded actually in 2008. We then expanded into South Africa in 2014, and I'll point this to the top right map a bit. When we were acquired in 2018 by PDSVISION and officially became PDSVISION, we became part of this global reseller, and we are the first PTC global reseller, being PDSVISION, with services kind of across the globe. And so you can see little pins, a lot of Europe pins there, at Arab Emirates, India, South Africa, and America. We are headquartered in Cleveland, Ohio. So outside of just the PTC products, we also have other offerings. For example, we have KeyShot, which is a real photo rendering of your CAD objects. Symbolics flow analysis, which is flow simulation, as well as others. But to talk a little bit about this concept of a digital thread, we actually have a full webinar series that's going to go much deeper into this. But what it is basically connecting your whole company through one digital thread. Where Mathcad kind of fits into this concept of digital thread is really the inner circles being your product virtualization. So, right, Mathcad can drive your product design. It has ability to connect into things like Creo. We can import and export parameters from Mathcad. These can also be easily stored inside a Windchill as dynamic documents and can drive your models from there. To actually visualize what this digital thread looks like, it's actually connecting various different compartments of your company. So we can take different stakeholders from different portions of the design and make sure they have capabilities of accessing what they need. And so Mathcad has capabilities to actually have it be accessible by many people. So that's a little bit of an introduction, and with the whole digital thread, again, we will have more of a webinar series dedicated to that. But to get into the actual meat of our Mathcad Prime updates, what was made, or what was changed in Mathcad Primate? The first big change we have is redefinition warnings. So if you try to overwrite a system-defined variable, so for example, c is the speed of light, and that's a default variable. If you try and rewrite and say c, is set to 5 meters per second, Mathcad Prime will now give you a redefinition warning, telling you that you're overwriting a predefined variable. It's very similar. It is a functionality from older versions of Mathcad, but it is now available in Prime. We can also have the ability to showing frames around our bodies of text, give it a nice little view. PTC has also added a partial derivative operator, which we can see in the image in the top right. So we now have that capability. And also, back in Mathcad Prime 7, PTC added a combo box. And we now have the ability to copy and paste multiple values easily into these combo boxes, making them just much more usable for the user. The next set of changes belong in the symbolic engine. So the symbolic engine is a big driving point of PTC. A lot of effort has gone into this, into the improvements here. So the first bullet point is that there's been a ton of improvements just into general use and performance for integral transformations. This improved performance has actually just made the tool a lot more accessible. And then on top of that, we've also seen added support for Fourier, Laplace, and Z transformations, which we can see actually kind of in the bottom image there. There's been improved support for various calculus operators, limits, derivatives, and integrals in the symbolic engine. General overall keyword improvements. And we also just have undefined variable handling improvements, which will be more easy to see in the demonstration portion of the webinar. A couple numerics changes have been made. So PTC has updated physical constants to align with NIST and CODATA. So examples are like Planck's, Boltzmann, and Avogadro's number. As time goes on, those numbers get refined ever so slightly. So PTC has updated those values. And there's also improved behavior in state space and ODE solve functions. Some overall general usability enhancements have also been made in Mathcad Primate. So the nicest one has actually been the zoom slider. It's been refined and actually allows for more smoother zooming. So you can use that by holding Control key and just scrolling your mouse wheel. So Mathcad Prime 8, that functionality is a lot smoother, a lot nicer to use. PTC has also added an unsaved worksheet indicator, which if you look in the image, you can see a little asterisk next to the word Fourier factors. That is indicating that changes have been made to a document that have not been saved. Also, a context menu has been added to the worksheet tabs. So if you were to right-click Fourier factors, this actual context menu would pop up, which will let you do things like calculating it, copying its file path, opening where that file is. So that's been a new, nice quality of life functionality added to Mathcad Prime. We also have the ability to clear text formatting on large quantities of text. So some overall general usability enhancements have been made into Mathcad Prime 8. A couple other miscellaneous things for Mathcad Prime is the first one is that legacy Mathcad documents, which is like Mathcad 15 and earlier, and as well as Mathcad Prime 1 through 6, which have been sunset, which has been talked about a few times here. We now have the ability to actually open those in an HTML file for viewing, for easy viewership, lightweight viewership. You can send those around as HTML files. Also, just a general statement is that PTC guarantees support for Windows 11 if you have updated to Windows 11, and that is supported. That supports Mathcad Prime 8. So now I'm going to head into a little bit of a demonstration. And again, as I go through this demo, please feel free to ask any and all questions, which I'll kind of get to towards the end. So right here, we see Mathcad Prime 8. And I'm going to start by just showing some of those general updates that have been made. So if I scroll on this sheet, you see we have combo boxes. If I were to right click and edit these, you can actually see the combo box settings. And we now have the ability to actually copy and paste values into this. So if I expand out this worksheet, I have a little matrix over here. And the overall matrix dimensions have to match. So we have 4 rows, 3 columns. If I were to copy, Control C, and paste them into here, these matrices dimensions match, and I can easily input them just by copying and pasting. That's a nice little added functionality made inside of Mathcad Primate. And this is currently calculating. Next thing I want to talk about is borders. So if I go to the Document tab, I can actually turn on the frame. It just gives it a nice little look. And we can also go into our header and add a frame, as well as our footer and add a frame. And so we can create some nice looking documents. If I turn off the grid, we can see just a nice general look to the document. If I scroll down a bit, next thing I want to bring up, if I look in the calculation tab, is this redefinition warnings. So if I do the drop down, currently Mathcad is telling me that pretty much everything that's built into Mathcad Prime or any user-defined functions or variables, if I overwrite them, it's going to highlight them. So if I keep scrolling down, we see here, we see a green box around a letter. This is telling us that the expression is redefined from somewhere else. So V was previously defined right here as wind speed. And then if you redefine it down here, it's going to give it a green box telling you that there's a redefinition. Same thing with functions. So for example, here we see the power output is a singular function. And if I scroll down to here, we redefine it, which gives it the green box telling you that you have redefined. Now you can turn this off. So if I do the drop down and turn off scalar variables, for example, we'll see that those green boxes go away because those are scalar variables that we overwrote. So you can choose what redefinitions you want to see and don't want to see, customize it to your desire. Next thing is partial derivatives. So if I come to my Math tab and select this current derivative we're taking here, we can actually just replace it from our operators group, and the keyboard shortcut is Control D, but we can replace and add partial derivatives. Next thing I want to talk about is just some general usability stuff. So I'm going to open up a different document, and we'll open up this car suspension. And I want to open up one other one. I'll do this one. So as you see right where my mouse is, little asterisks mean that changes have been made to the document. So right now, when I open up P8 car suspension, we don't see an asterisk. But if I were to come down here and let's say change something, we now get an asterisk, which means that a change has been made. I can also right-click these tabs and choose to do many things. So for example, I want to make sure this tab or this worksheet has been recalculated. I can right-click and click calculate. I can also drag these sheets around to rearrange them as I choose. We also have some other functionality such as closing. You can choose what you want to close. You can move it. You can also copy file paths. So if I did copy full file path, come over to this worksheet and paste it, right? You can see what gets copied over is the exact file path of a document. And we can also open the containing folder, which will open up a file explorer for us. And again, when we see the asterisk, that means we have to save. And so if we were to save the document, the asterisk would go away because we saved it. The next thing I want to talk about is just zooming in general. So something nice added to Mathcad Primate's ability to zoom in and out. So if I hold Control and zoom in, we can actually get a nice step. And if you go, little by little, you'll see that they're actual 5% zooming steps. So it just makes it much more smooth, nicer to use overall. In previous versions, it was very jumpy. Next thing we also have is the ability to clear text formatting. So for example, in here, we have some underlining. We can select everything come over to the text formatting and actually remove any null formatting and bring us back to the original settings. So in this document as well, it's just, select all this. There's bold and there's underlined things, and it will just take it all out, all the formatting, text formatting we had there. Next thing I want to do is talk about some symbolics. So I'm going to close some of these tabs here. Saving. And we'll come into my symbolics. And we'll open up a few sheets here just to show the new additions to our Fourier transformations, our symbolics engine in general, as well as these undefined variables, which I mentioned were hard to see in the PowerPoint, but will be easier to understand here. So I'm going to start in the Fourier factors. Sorry, nope, I'm going to start Fourier heavy side. And come down here all the way to the bottom. And so in this yellow box, we see the old behavior of the Fourier heaviside. And so I can actually now take this function and paste it. And now we see what the new behavior, the new handling of these Fourier symbolic transforms happens. We also have the ability with new keywords, nfact and ofact for Fourier transforms. This will allow you to actually have user-defined Fourier normalization and oscillatory factors. So if I come down here, we see this right here. See Fourier, but we can actually add things like nfact, and we can give it a value. And so nfact again is the Fourier normalization factor. So I'm going to make it 2 pi, and we can see the answer. We can also do oscillatory factors, and we'll set this to just -1. And see what our output is. So added functionalities to our Fourier transforms inside of Mathcad Prime. Sorry. Next thing we have is we look here and we see what the old behavior of this symbolic function is. So this was a legacy. And if I just copy this, paste it, and I'm going to now see the new handling for integrals. And this goes similar to limits and derivatives. Depending on, what you're integrating, it's just an enhanced handling of it. Similarly with undefined variables, if I scroll to the bottom, this one's a bit easier to understand. And zoom in here. The old behavior was a bit wonky, right? So derivative of x squared minus x would be 2x minus x, which you would just want to see as x, for example. So the new behavior of it, if we just start from over here and just click. So take the derivative of x squared minus x, and we'll see that the actual value you want to see here is correctly outputted. Same thing happened with integrals in earlier builds, and so I'll actually just copy this, paste it, and we see we get the expected response out of it. So some increased handling for symbolics has been added inside of Mathcad Prime. And last thing I wanted to show were the numeric changes. So we'll just open up numeric doc. And we'll come into here And basically what's happened is there's just been added functionalities. And this cannot have an imaginary. So there's just been improved behavior in state space and Avogadro functions inside of Mathcad Prime. So some nice handling has been added in terms of numerics. Same thing actually goes, I'll show one other guy real quick. Let me open up this car suspension again. And the other added functionality or improved functionalities is ODE solve function. So they've added or enhanced the way it works. They enhance its performance. It's a bit quicker now inside of Mathcad Primate. So these are just some of the changes that PTC has made to Mathcad Primate. And as the software evolves into future years, they're still planning on adding many new functions. Specifically with graphing, I know there's some planned enhancements to be made towards graphing coming in future builds. But as a Primate, these are the new changes that have been made. So before I get to the questions, if you want to learn more about Mathcad Prime, we do offer trainings on this, and we offer trainings on a wide variety of topics, being Creo, Windchill, other softwares, and we kind of can accommodate what you want. We can do virtual, in-center, or on-site trainings. So we have centers located in many parts of the United States, and we can also come on-site. So now I'll head into some questions. So the first question, and I think I was asked in the PowerPoint portion, was can the redefined variable warnings be turned off so that the warning doesn't show? And the answer is yes. So just to go back and show that just in case. So if I were to just type in like c equals 5 meters per second. And then c equals, oh, it should be giving me that. Just open the one. I know has it. So we see this here. We could turn it on and off for whatever we want. So the answer is yes, you can turn off the redefined variable warnings. So I'm waiting for other questions. But while I'm waiting, what I will say is that this webinar will be posted on our YouTube page. So if you were to just go on YouTube and type in like PDSVISION, you'll be able to see webinars, see this webinar, see other webinars. And if you have any other questions, my email is here and I'll shout this out a couple times. Matt Foote, I'll have to reach out to you about that. The webinar isn't for specific troubleshooting, so please send me an email and I can connect with you after the webinar to get that issue solved. Will VB script be added - improved like functions in Mathcad 15? So there, I'd have to go back to PTC and figure that out. I do not believe there is VB script support right now, but I'll have to come back and look for an answer there. Let me write down who's asked these. Okay. I'll have to get back on VB script functionalities. So yeah, I'm waiting for any other questions, but that is everything I had for today to show outside of just other Q&A. So if you want to drop off, feel free to. And again, this webinar and any other questions will be uploaded to our YouTube page, and you can just kind of look us up and see a bunch of different webinars. So I'll give it another minute or two for any questions. Yeah, Richard, I answered. Can undefined variable warnings be turned off? Yes, I've said this. It's inside of calculation. You could turn it off. So it's a literal button you could turn on and off. Okay. That looks like it's pretty much all the questions. Again, if you have other ones down the road, Mathcad 15 has toolbars for math functions. Does Prime 8 have the same? Yes. So in the math bar here, right, you have a bunch of different functions, constants, there's programming. Now this is all part of Mathcad. And in the functions tab, they also have specific math functions depending on what you need. And as well as you can view them all in the taskbar on the left. And Symbolics I've shown for majority of this webinar. Those are Symbolics is part of Mathcad Prime. Can you load tables or variable data into combo boxes? So you can't load them directly into combo boxes. What you can do is load in the Excel file or table data. You can copy and paste that data or import it essentially into a matrix, and then copy and paste the matrix into the combo box. But the combo box cannot currently be linked to a table. Can the functions be separated from the ribbon? I don't. No, you can have them as a bar over on the left, but you can't like undock these. They're in the ribbon. That looks to be everything. I'm gonna go ahead and close out the webinar for now. If you guys have further questions, please feel free to reach out and ask me them, and I'll connect through email. And for those couple other questions, I'll get back to you guys regarding VB script. Everyone, have a great rest of your day. Thanks for coming out.